Okay, so we are at the beginnings of this lovely concept called economics. Now, when we teach the first chapter, ends up kind of being a potpourri of a whole bunch of different content that kind of builds the beginnings of the thought processes for everything else that comes later on. So some of the stuff might seem kind of random. Once we get into the next chapter, it gets a little more specific. But what we need to understand is the basic idea behind why we even study economics, what the point is of all of this. And it kind of leads us into the, sorry, let me get out of the way, the discussion that we are constantly wanting more and more and more and more based off of the concept of scarcity. Okay, we tend to have the economic problem of never having enough. Right? We as a society, as a people, as a race, I think even, thank you very much, always have, we want more, we want more, we want more, we want more. The problem is, how do we get as much as we want with limited amounts of resources? Every company that's out there has to figure this out. Who in here has heard of the McRib coming back? All right, so this was like a big deal for years. At one point, McDonald's used to have it all the time. It was out as one of their products, but it wasn't a big, huge selling product, so they limited it to like a couple months a year. And then that kind of went away. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. I read an article that McDonald's was getting rid of the McRib in certain states because people just didn't like it as much. And then, just recently, I started seeing commercials that there's been such an outcry or outpouring of the demand for the McRib that McDonald's is bringing it back. Right? They're bringing it back at a limited time offer. What is that? It's the chicken nugget sauce too. The Szechuan sauce. Same thing. Like they only have it out for a limited amount of time, but when they do have it out, hold your horses. Holy mackerel! Like everyone, and isn't it from like a cartoon or TV show that like I don't even know where it came from, but it all of a sudden became this big, huge deal. Limited resources, unlimited wants. We want. If you guys think about just your day-to-day basis or day-to-day living, I want to do this, but I can't do it all. Right? I want to go out with my friends, but I'm scheduled to work tonight. I want to go to work, but my friends want me to come over. I want to watch this episode of Netflix, but I only have an hour before I have to be at work. Or I do need to go to sleep at some point tonight so that tomorrow I'm not completely wasted for the school day. Or work, or whatever. Who in here has done the binge watching of series until you're like absolutely exhausted? Yeah, right. I did that. It was a couple years ago. I got hooked on Dexter. Have you ever seen Dexter? Yeah, it's a good. It's weird because he's a bad guy who kills people, but you kind of like him because he only kills bad people. But he's killing somebody, so it's weird. It's like this weird. But I wanted to watch it, right? And then the next day, of course, I was exhausted. So what did I do? I went to Speedway, got myself a couple energy drinks, a couple shots, energy shots, and then made it through the day. Got home. You think, what would I do? Sleep? No. God, no sleep. I had to watch Dexter again. As I was only on season 2, and there's 8 seasons. So how do I make this happen? Who in here made it through a ton of Netflix during the pandemic shutdown? It was almost like that was the only thing we could do. I made it all the way through. Who in here's ever watched House? He's just a sarcastic SOB that I just love it. It's too funny. So I watched all of that one, got through that. There's all sorts of different ones. Right, but we want. Who wants to not be wearing a mask in school right now? Who wants to have these daggone plastic things up? right? We're limited though. We have limitations on what we can and cannot do. Um, who wants a brand new cell phone? Right? You have the money to buy it though. Now, here's the fun part. Companies provide us avenues of making this happen. What has the phone company started doing with their, well, it's not new, it's actually about 4 or 5 years old now. What have they done with their cell phones? And rather than purchasing them outright, what can you now do? Yeah, you can lease it, right? So it's not really yours, it's the company's, but you can pay $30 a month on top of your actual cell phone bill. And at the end of a 2-year contract, hopefully paid off, or maybe 3 years, you've paid it off. Or what you can do, this is actually how leases work for cars too. At the end of your time with this phone, the new version has come out. Let's say iPhone 14 is now out. It's not, we're at iPhone 12. But let's say it's iPhone 14. You skip 13 because you have the 12 and you're like, okay. And you still have, let's say $600 or $300 left on your cell phone. What will the AT&T and or Verizon or T-Mobile now do with your lease on the old phone to move it to the new phone? We'll waive that last $300 and we'll put you into a new phone. I know you were paying $30 for the iPhone 12 per month, but now we'll put you in an iPhone 14 for $40 a month. We're going to add that in, right? So you eternally keep on going and going and going. But because I want that new phone, I have to figure out how to do this. Who here has ever bought their phone outright? Right? Smart move. Very, very smart move. Right? I wanted it, but I'm going to wait. I have limited resources. I only have this much money available. How do I use it so I can make this work for me? I'm going to wait 6 months. I've worked my butt off. I've got the $1,000, buy the phone, and now I only pay the service fee or the usage fee. Right? I don't pay for the phone. I'm done. Who in here knows anyone or is someone who has bought their car and they're done paying for it? It's a lovely, lovely feeling to be in a car with no payments. But I want a new car. I want. However, I'm limited. I only make $10 an hour, $9.50 an hour. I can't. Right. So we're always constantly looking for ways of dealing with that. Right. So scarcity forces us to make these choices. I have to constantly make choices. I have to make choices of going out with my friends on the weekend. And I'm sure you guys have had that one. Who in here has ever called in sick? Right? I will be honest. I have done it as well. I just needed it. It's called
vacation
time. Well, there's vacation time. There's sick time. You get sick. Like I think it's 1 day a month for sick days. I can accumulate those. Vacation time I get all summer. But vacation time I get 3 personal days during the school year.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah. It's a mental health day. It's just a day I just need to not be at school. I just can't. Right?
Don't we all should do that then?
And I would imagine at some point you guys, has anybody had a day where your mom got just can't go?
I've heard some of that.
Right? Like all of March, April, May. That was probably, I'd imagine if you guys really look at it, probably the easiest schooling you guys probably ever had in your life. Because I think here at the Christianer, you guys were all here. Were you guys? No, you guys are all mostly. Who are my seniors? Okay, juniors. Your homeschools. I'm not sure what your homeschools did, but for us in the spring, it was like 2 days a week. I would see my classes for an hour, maybe if they stuck around. I'd give them an assignment, and then I would see them the next week. And your labs were a little bit more different. You get a little bit difficult, but there wasn't a ton. It was the first pandemic we've ever experienced. Scarcity. I don't know what to do. How do we use these online computers and get these kids back into class and work on projects? It's the whole thing. Even that, who in here struggles? If I were to give you an assignment and say, all right, here's the assignment. It's not due for 3 weeks. Who in here potentially waits till the last day before to do it? Right? It's hard to accommodate and fix that time. Who in here would take right away, get it done and be finished?
Okay. I would like to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are times when I have all the best intentions in the world, and all of a sudden, just time gets away from me, and I have not used my resources wisely. So we're constantly looking at ways to use our resources. This is something that will kind of drives us through everything that we talk about in economics, from now to the end of the whole unit or the semester. The one thing I do want to clarify is scarcity and shortage are different. Scarcity never goes away. We're always looking. We're always trying to figure this out. Every company out there, every human being is constantly looking. Whereas a company may have a shortage for a moment in time. Has anybody ever gone to a store, they just didn't have it that day, and they said next week it'll be in? Right? Or you order something online, and they said it's currently out, but we'll ship it the moment it's in. Right? That's a shortage. It's a temporary thing. We run into that from time to time. So shortage and scarcity are two different things. Scarcity never goes away. Shortage is a finite situation. All right. So in regards to using resources, there is one group of people that essentially controls a lot of these resources. And controls actually is the incorrect word. Utilizes resources. So they kind of take all of these different things and they create new items for us to use. All right, so entrepreneurs play a key role in turning those scarce resources into goods and services. Right, so if we think about the physicality of cell phones, right, the physical creation of how to build them, somebody, Steve Jobs, along with Apple and that company, has to. Does anybody know the story of Steve Jobs and how he started? A little bit out of a garage. Right, that was it. He kind of created this idea. He had a couple of buddies that Wozniak was the other guy that was with him, and they came up with this concept. It was actually, I'm not sure if anyone has ever heard of Linux. Have you heard of Linux? Linux is like a free software that's open source where I can go in and change the code and adjust and make it better and better and better. Apple used to be like Linux. It was open source. Matter of fact, he had a consultant working with him. Anybody know his name? He has his own company now called Microsoft. Yeah, Bill Gates actually was hired by Jobs to work on some stuff. So again, that kind of took us in the whole world of technology and where are we at today because Steve Jobs and Bill Gates wanted to make a better product. So they created, they maneuvered, they manipulated. Now we have iPhones, now we have iPads. Yeah.
What was the word that you said should be switched? Or did you say one should be switched? You said like it was the wrong word for something.
No, I said I used the wrong word. I said yeah. So there's nothing wrong on the screen. Yeah, the word I used wasn't the best choice of words. There was a better one. So think of DoorDash, Grubhub. Okay, somebody had to go. There's already Uber Eats. Let's just go back to that. Uber Eats was I think one of the first ones that was out there. And then some of the companies like Panera had their own delivery service. I think a lot of the companies that did originally have their own delivery service that switched over to DoorDash and Grubhub because but somebody had to come up with the idea. And then they had to hire people and they had to create the app. Uber's a great one. If you think about how Uber and Lyft came about, that whole company just took, all right, you're a driver and you want to make some extra money. Okay. Does anybody know anyone who's an Uber driver or Lyft driver? There's some good money, depending on the terms of like when you're doing all the work. I have a buddy of mine who does it. And he can pull in a couple $100 every weekend. Not bad. There's some people that I've heard that's a full-time job for them. That's all they do, and they're pulling in $40,000, $50,000 a year. Right? That's all they do. So new ideas, starting business. The nice thing about this is if I started Uber or I started Lyft, I could do it myself, correct? But if I'm successful, what am I going to have to do to keep my business running if it's doing well? If I can offer you guys all a position making $11.50 or $12 an hour, who in here might be interested in joining up with me? Right? Okay, and I can't do it myself, so I'll hire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of you guys. Right, so I'm maxing out as much money as I have. Now you guys go out. I've started a business. I've given you guys money. What will you guys now do? Go out and buy stuff. right? You might want to get some new things for your car. You might get some, you know what, I'm doing really well with this. I'm going to upgrade my car to another car. So the car company is now happy. All of the gas stations are super happy because you're constantly coming in and filling up. If you always stop at the same Speedway all the time, Speedway's happy, right? Everyone kind of benefits from me opening up an app that creates jobs for you guys. So the development of new ideas and new growth really kind of comes from the entrepreneur. So original ideas, there was one that I came up with, or I saw, that I thought was just kind of interesting. And I'm curious to see if you guys think the same. All right, so this is it's actually an old app or an old idea, but I'm curious what you guys think.
What started off as a spin-off device from Samsung's experimental C-Lab arm is now a full-fledged company that has launched a device called Signal. The $249 smart strap from Inodal allows you to listen to your calls with the tip of your finger. It works by transmitting vibrations through this body connection unit that sits right under the strap. The audio vibrations travel up your hand and skin all the way to the tip of your finger. Once you touch the inside of your ear, the sound is amplified and you can hear your call. When an incoming call comes in, you'll feel the device vibrate and it will light up. And to answer the call, you just press this button and then stick your finger in your ear and you can start talking or listening. The strap connects to your phone via Bluetooth, and you can also attach your regular watch face, an Apple Watch, or an Android Wear watch, including the Samsung Gear 3. The device has a 3.5-hour talk time and charges in about 1 hour. It comes in 6 colors and is expected to be available starting March 2018.
That was 2018. Has anybody seen it out there? No, it's an original idea, and they gave it a shot. What have they replaced that type of technology with now? Do you guys have your Apple Watches, or who in here has earbuds in actually as I'm speaking right now? A lot of you guys put those in, you just leave them in, right? That's kind of the way it goes. Matter of fact, I have to laugh. There's been, I don't know, more than a handful of times where I'm talking to a student in the hallway. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they oblivious because they're on their earbuds and they're just talking to someone on the phone. Right. It was funny. It was years ago when Bluetooth first came out with the original head. Who here knows anyone read those little earpieces? It became a joke. You'd be like talking to somebody, and they were like, and they would just point at their ear. They said, "Oh, you're on your Bluetooth." But this one, I had to laugh because again, it's a smart idea. I liked it, but then I started thinking of the practicality issues. Like if this is just one of those, like, yeah, okay, oh. You want to talk to? Okay, hold on a second. How do you do that one? Right? So, mom wants to talk to you. Here, listen. You just stick your finger in your sister or brother's ear, right? Which would be kind of fun because if they really had to talk to mom and dad, you'd be like, "Mom's got to talk to you." Yeah. So, but again, original ideas. That's okay. You play around, figure out what works, what doesn't work. The other one that I heard of, and I still have not seen it developed yet, although we have variations of different things, was the Wi-Fi charging units. So it's probably about 6 or 7 years ago. If I had, let's say, a Wi-Fi system right here, the router, and you guys were sitting in here, there's technology being developed where that would charge your phone just by being in the same room. You have the Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi would also not only provide you information, but also charge your phone while you are in proximity to it. So again, different ideas. Who in here has a phone that can charge just by being put on? So you don't have to plug it in; you just put it on the.
I mean, I will.
Yeah. Right. Technology is not difficult. Who in here has an Apple Watch? I think those have the unit where you can just put it on and it charges right away.
Yeah.
Right. So at this point now, I think we're just limited by our imagination. All the stuff that's out there, it's really kind of amazing. Matter of fact, this TV right here, this whole thing is all about new technologies that I don't have to figure out as well. In regards to new things, this is actually a Brunswick student. Who are my Brunswick people? So Brunswick, this is Natalie Sidesurf. Used to be called Natalie, before she was married, Natalie Elliott. She's a Brunswick student. And she has this very, very original job. So enjoy.
A lot of people are bakers that then do sculpted cakes, but instead I'm an artist who started doing sculpted cakes. Sugar, flour, eggs, all these materials, they start out as scratch ingredients. It's this really cool process. You turn them into a cake, and then you turn them into a cake sculpture, and then everybody eats it. Having that attitude and that kind of, that art background, I see myself as an artist first and a baker second. Baking is absolutely artistic, so they really go hand in hand. It's really great to do. Before I start a cake, I gather as many images as possible of, in this case, a T-Rex. So I'm looking up toys and models. I'm looking up, dinosaurs in movies. So I gather all that information, and then I come up with my design and how I want the dinosaur to kind of feel. So here we have the unpainted T-Rex. This is all covered in chocolate. There is a cake board that comes right through here, and this back leg actually has that rod that is holding that cake board up. Connected to the cake board is a wire that is going to go through for his tail and then come through to the head. While I was at Ohio State, my concentration was in drawing and painting. So it's funny because everybody always assumes it was sculpting. And I did do a lot of sculpting, but I mostly was doing painting. And I'm so happy I did because I think that's really what kind of, I want to say, like, brings them to life. You have to learn how to use material. Somebody can't just be like, this is how you do it. It's not that easy. You have to kind of get your hands on it and work with it. And I think that my education at Ohio State was just absolutely necessary and absolutely influences how I work with cake today and why I've had some successful moments. The idea that cake throughout history has always been a way for people to celebrate. Everybody gathers around, you get a giant group of people together. I think it's so crazy that a cake can represent so much. It represents a birthday or a wedding, and I get to, create these sculptures out of cake so that they can celebrate their moments in their lives. Sometimes when I drop cakes off, people cry. They're just so emotional about what's going on. They're so happy with the design and the cake that they just get a little emotional. The next thing you know, is your son graduating? Oh, they see the cake and they cry, and that is just like something that I never realized, I would impact people. I'm so happy.
Now, she actually at one point was in. There's a couple competitions she was in Cleveland. That's one of her cakes up there at the top. Guy up there. The armadillo. The onion down there that you guys see. She's just crazy insane. It's really, really cool. It's really pretty awesome, actually. Let's see if I can find. Jump over to. I'll get to this in a second, but let me pull something else up real fast. She was on the food. She actually had her own TV show at one point. So everything you guys see on the screen here, these are all cakes that she made. Right, so this is of course, Baby Yoda. Better Call Saul. This is actually a cake. It's not a steak. The pizzas, that's all. These are all cakes. She did herself. Sandwich, but it's a cake. The one that you guys just saw from Ohio State. This is the one that I saw at the Home and Flower Show. This would have been like 2015, 2014 when she was in town. These are all pretty impressive. There was one, her wedding cake was the one that was like surreal. Let's see if I can come across it. Because her husband, and her husband's the baker. That's her husband right there. He's the one that does all the baking. She's the one that kind of decorates it all. They have like a macabre sense of, there's LeBron. These are all just pretty. This one, there's one that was just really, really, really impressive. Hello, doctor. How are you?
Sir, need anything?
No, all set.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. There it is. That's their wedding cake. Really bizarre, right? But I don't know. That was their style, apparently. Now, all that to say, keep in mind all the resources she was using, because she has, like I said, she had her own TV show. She's also now on Food Network, and she's a judge. They'll bring her on as a judge. The practical ownership of the cake company, all the price she has to buy to make the cakes, all the people that she's buying from are benefiting. She has to hire employees that know also how to do art, right? So you have that type of area, which brings us to the idea of using the resources, right? So when we look at resources that are out there, there are three. There's land, there's labor, and there's capital. Land in and of itself are all of our natural resources, the things that we use that we haven't altered. That's the big key. What do we get from land that we haven't manipulated, right? Sometimes people say water, but what do we do to our water before we do anything with it physically? We purify it, we clean it, we sanitize it, we run it through filters, we do all sorts of stuff to make sure it's either flavored or healthy for us or not dangerous, I should say. Has anybody by any chance watched the TV series Naked and Afraid? It's an awkward, it's weird.
It's very weird.
Yeah, it takes you about 30 seconds, about 4 or 5 minutes, I should say, to kind of like get over the fact that there's two naked people out in the middle of nowhere trying to survive, doing whatever. And that's why they call it Naked and Afraid. And what they do is they'll put these two people out, typically a male and a female, out in a nature type situation. And they say, okay, here's the task. You have to get from here to there, or you have to build a boat, or you have to do whatever it is. And then they do like a pre-evaluation on how are they in the nature? What kind of, I'm trying to think of, there's like, they give them a rating on how good they are independently surviving something or other. Well, one of the guys that I saw, his name was Puma. And Puma thought he was like God's gift to everyone. And when they had him out in the middle of wherever he was with this woman, she was all about, we need to purify the water. We're out in the middle of this rainforest. It's really, really bad. We can't drink the water from the river. But because they kept on having issues because it was so, they couldn't get the fire to burn, so they couldn't clean the water. He finally gave up and just drank the water from the river. And then I think it was like an hour or two later in the episode, they actually showed him like hunched over, like in pain from all the stuff that was in the water, because they hadn't purified it. He just drank it from the creek, and then they had to fly him out to a hospital because he had dysentery. Really, really bad. But again, we typically do a lot of stuff to our water. So when I say air, I'm talking about the stuff we haven't really altered. Even the air in our school, we have heated it. We've altered it. If you have air conditioners during the summertime, yeah, right? H2O. Now, when I put H2O, again, I want to clarify, I haven't touched it. Just H2O, just water itself, right? So think about all the power plants that we use water to help us with. The oceans, all the stuff that we have that way. Lumber, and again, I leave it as that. We get lumber from nature. We can use that. Coal. Think of all the stuff that we use coal for, which is really kind of awkward because we typically think of coal as, just a heating source. But coal creates temperature. Coal can create the heat to help boil water, which turns turbines, which gives us electricity. Right, so there's other things from there. Petroleum. Why that line's shorter than the other ones. Petroleum, and again, generically, think about does anybody know where petroleum, like what we use petroleum for? Not just for our cars and for our gasoline. What else do we use petroleum? Does anybody have makeup on today? Petroleum. Does anybody have glasses on? Petroleum. Anybody have clothing on today? Petroleum. Anybody have a big, huge plastic shield somewhere around them? Petroleum. Anybody have shoelaces on? Petroleum. Bags? Petroleum. Cell phones? Petroleum. I mean, you name it, we use it in pretty much anything and everything.
Teachers, please excuse the interruption. If you are a first period instructor and have not taken your morning attendance, please do so now in Power Teacher. Thank you.
All right, last one. Minerals. Anybody here take vitamins? Right. Those are essentially minerals they put together that are healthy for us, right? When you guys are told you should be eating your greens and you should be eating more vegetables because the vegetables have things in them that help us, right? So these are all the natural things that we typically get, right? When I go back to the air is kind of a fun one because in general, right now, for the most part, you guys go outside. You're not being charged for that air. Has anybody ever been charged for air, or I should say oxygen? Have you ever been to the hospital? Have you ever had the oxygen put in? Like that you're paying for that oxygen. If you've ever known anyone who said that. Anyone heard of scuba diving? Paying for that. There's actually a business that like cools the air on purpose to make sure you're cold so you don't stay in one spot for too long. I'm very, very open-ended on that one. But I'll give you guys more specifics. There's one in Cleveland, there's one in Columbus, there's one in Cincinnati, there's one in Toledo. There's one at the racetrack in Northfield now. Let me give a guess where I'm going with this. They want you up and moving because they want you to spend your money. You don't know Jack? They help at all? Jack? Casinos?
Oh.
Yeah. Casinos will actually super cool their air on purpose. They want you guys, they usually take that to about 60, 65. Because if you're cold, you're jittery. If you're cold, you're going to get up, you can move around. The other one I think is funny is if you've ever been in a casino or if you ever go to a casino someday, no clocks. They won't put clocks up because they don't want you to see what time it is. They'll clean the air as much as they can as well. They'll try to make it as pure as possible, sometimes pumping in pure oxygen, because if you feel good, what will you do? Spend more money. Right? And the other one, just on the side note, which I thought was a smart idea, it's actually kind of genius, is as long as you are drinking, let me rephrase, as long as you're gambling, what did they provide you for free? Drinks. Because then you're trash. If you're trash, you have no inhibitions and you don't know what you're doing, so you keep on spending more money. Which is why, have you ever heard the phrase, the house always wins in a casino? That's because people spend millions upon millions of dollars and they only give out maybe $1 million. All right. This next one's kind of a fun one. We talk about labor. We talk about things that people do for service, right? Or they provide services to get paid. And we sometimes typically, when I've done this in the past, I used to have lines up here and I would give people some examples. And they were kind of mundane. It was like, oh, a teacher, a lawyer. And that's fine. And those two exist. And that's labor. Yes, I'm working and I'm getting paid for that. But I found some other ones that I thought were a little bit more unique. So you guys can pull all these down if you want to, or just a couple of them down. Totally up to you. I know they're small because there's a whole bunch of them. Color experts. Right? So you're paid because you know your colors. And you're hired to come in and, like, my mom is a color expert. She does that for, if you don't know anyone who decorates, the decorator goes around, no, I don't like that color. I'll change this color. I want to adjust this color. Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't a couple years ago, we redid our house, like we had this one come out from Sherwin-Williams and it was like color thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how many colors are out there. Has anybody ever looked at the paints? Just walking past Home Depot or
Yes.
Lowe's, the paints.
Yes.
Somebody had to create those colors. That's their job. That's all you're gonna do. All right. So we got like 25 paints. We need 25. Let's come up with different variations of paint. This is kind of an old one, but railroad conductors still exist. You like trains? That job still does exist. Body painter. This is becoming the new thing. So you hire models and you just paint the models. You don't give them clothing. You just paint them, and you're not even. It's not a model for the clothing. It's the model for the painter. So the painter actually advertises their work by painting a body, and then now they have competitions all the way. I mean, it's kind of live mannequin or statue. Has anybody ever been to Disney? Like, there's those two, sometimes one or two of them that are like the mannequins,
Yeah.
and you just take pictures with them. And the kids don't really know, so it's always fun to watch them like put their hand over the kid's shoulder and the kid freaks out. And then there's people that will actually make money on the side of the streets, like they just stand on the side of the road in Hollywood or LA or whatnot. Professional bridesmaid. That's it. That's all I do. Go from wedding to wedding to wedding. You're not going to be the main. You won't be the maid of honor, of course. But you're the bridesmaid, that way you're in it, that way you can plan it and you can arrange it and do all the stuff. Set up the bachelorette party, you do it, it's all you, and then I'll pay you a certain stipend per wedding. So you want to get into as many weddings as possible. Flavorist. A flavorist. Now I actually talking to Mrs. Scott, and she has a friend who works for Yoplait, I think. Yoplait or one of the yogurt companies, and that's their job, is to create new flavors. Keep on working through coffee, strawberry, cherry, strawberry coffee, strawberry cherry, I don't know, whatever. I mean, you put the combination. Who here has had the new Mountain Dew watermelon? Mrs. Perry lives and dies, but she loves it. She absolutely loves it. And I tasted it; it was pretty good. But someone has to keep on experimenting and playing. When Mountain Dew does those like
I love the,
crazy
I
ones.
love the limited time one when it's around like 4th of July, the Liberty Room.
Uh-huh.
That one's
Yeah.
good.
The ones I like are the Christmas time with cranberry, Sierra Mist cranberry, or Sprite cranberry.
Yeah,
Those
sorry,
are-
Cranberry.
Right, but again, someone's hired to make those flavors. Midwives. My sister-in-law and brother live in the Netherlands. It'll come up from time to time, and I apologize if it goes overboard. But they had a doctor, of course, that helped birth their baby. But they had a midwife that was assigned to them. It's a little bit of a different system over there. That would come out every month and kind of walk through the house, go through certain things and make sure that it was baby safe house. And then they would go over things with my sister-in-law Anna to make sure she was okay. And then when she was near the end of the pregnancy, the midwife was coming out like every single day to help out with certain things, and then was there at the birth to help out with anything that needed to be done. Right? So there's a job. Bounty hunter. That still exists. Matter of fact, there's some good videos out there of bounty hunters. I think my favorite one is the guy that pulls up to the girl who hasn't paid for her car. Has anybody seen that one? So she hasn't paid for her car, and he's there to, and then she has something else, but he's there to arrest her because she didn't show up for a court date. For those who don't know, that's what a bounty hunter essentially does, is you have a court hearing and you have to pay for it with a bond, and you don't show up to court or you don't pay up on the amount you owe, then they send actually a bounty hunters out to collect it, to arrest people who have not paid. And that's one version of it. Ethical hacker. So Facebook might hire you or Twitter might hire you to work on making sure the system is hack proof. So you'll try to hack in the system and try to find out what hackers are trying to do so you can stop them and fix it. This happens actually, there's stories after story I've heard of people who have cheated casinos. Anybody ever watch any of those like Las Vegas TV shows or documentaries? They'll actually hire people that used to try to cheat the system because they know how the system gets cheated. There's actually a movie, Frank Abagnale, It was a movie with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio, where he was a con man. They actually eventually, in the movie, in real life, the guy that they were chasing, who was played by Leonardo DiCaprio, gets hired by the FBI because he's such an expert in how to counterfeit stuff. But they hired him to help them fight other counterfeiters. Right? So, video game tester. If anyone knows anyone who's a gamer, there's a job out there for you. You can get paid some really good money. What's that?
Mike doesn't actually.
Yeah. How do you know how much he gets?
Well, he's like Smash Brothers. He's like one of the top players. They made him an announcer now.
Really?
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's some potential. I've heard sometimes they get paid per game, or they just get hired by the company and say, okay, every time we release a new game, I want you to play it to death and make sure that any of the issues that we run into, you can help us fix it before they even release it. Sometimes.
I think he started about 15 too. So.
Yeah. If you're just starting, it's not a bad one. Water slide tester. There's also roller coaster testers too. The water slide tester, I don't know which one scares me more. I think the roller coaster one, yeah. Although the water slide tester, you can hurt yourself pretty good on those too, because there's nothing holding you. Nail polish namer.
There's a website where you could like go to and like name nail polishes without having to get a job for them.
Yeah. Lego sculptor. If you guys know anyone who works with Legos, like a Lego company, Disney Imagineer, those are awesome. Chocolate consultant. So how do you use chocolate? What variations? Has anybody ever heard of the chocolate? I think it's a chocolate bar in downtown Cleveland. Everything they serve, they have some sort of chocolate in it. So there's chocolate martinis, but then they had like a pork. And they had like a chocolate topping on it. Everything has some sort of good chocolate. Yeah. Island caretaker. So during the year while the family's not at the island, you live there and take care of it. And then during the summertime or however long they're there, you then would leave the island or go live in a guest house. Is he?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He works on Middle Bass.
Okay. Nice. Professional sleeper. So mattress companies would probably hire you. We're going to give you this mattress for a month, test it out, let us know what you think. Just sleep in it. Comfortable, not comfortable, rate it, yada, yada, yada. Netflix tagger. So going back to the binge watching. I mean, sometimes the Netflix companies will contact people and say, okay, listen, before we release this completely, tell us what you think. Is it good? Is it not good? Should we put it on Netflix? Should we not? Because for years, they were actually some really bad shows out there. And then they started getting more and more better. Google Trike or Street View team member. Just ride your tricycle around. Has anybody ever seen the cars with the big, huge dome on the top? It used to be just the streets. Now they've got the tricycles, so you can go off streets, off road. So, pickup artist instructor. I kid you not. People pay people to help them figure out how to pick up people. It's a job. All right, tomorrow we'll pick up here. There's some videos of some other jobs that I think are interesting.